Hey, Dark and Darker community, I go by Zeefles, and I have been making Dark and Darker videos for a little over a month now, and I've actually recorded my entire journey of playing Dark and Darker, and I've done it in a little bit of a vlog format where I showed you my first classes that I played, my first games to fighting my first boss, trying out PvP, and I've been getting into High Roller and potentially thinking about starting Arena soon. So I'm not a veteran player, but I wanted to share my, I would say, strong opinion on Goblin Caves being having fog of war and being randomized. So hear me say this: I'm not a high ranked player. I even with 100 hours or so in the game, I really don't know what I'm doing yet. I've tried really hard to improve every step of the way. The community has actually been extremely welcoming, so I love that. But I wanted to share my perspective as somebody who is still at about 100 hours scratching the surface of this game. So I've pointed a lot of people to this game. I've actually purchased the full version of it for a couple people just because I think they would really enjoy it, but I want them to have the full experience. And up until this point, it has been an amazing way of introducing them to the game has been just start with the Goblin Caves. Don't worry about anything else. Just start with the Goblin Caves. The map is there. It's the same thing every time. You can get used to extracting. You can get used to PvP. You can get used to fighting mobs and knowing where everything is. But when you get into things like the ruins and you go into the basement, they have modules and it becomes more procedurally generated, more randomized. And that has been it's been a really cool way to introduce people to the game. So I introduced my brother, who is no stranger to video games. He's newer to RPGs, yes, but he's competed with a lot of games at a very high level. He has gamer brain. Like he's going to come in and play a game, and I think any game that he really tries, he's eventually going to be able to figure it out pretty well. And he says, "Hey, it's so hard to find the extraction points because it's just the fog of war and it's randomized, you know." And I was like, "No, the Goblin Caves aren't randomized." He's like, "No, it is. Did I do something wrong? Am I queuing up for the wrong map?" I was like, "No." So I come into the game and I realized, like, oh, there is a hotfix, and they changed that. And you know, I'm also not a player that like follows the news of the game, who understands fully why they make all the decisions they make. But as I read through this, I actually understand the reasoning for this first paragraph. So I'm going to read this first paragraph here. It says, "This update continues the expansion of the random dungeon system. Random dungeon system have now been applied to both Ruins and Goblin Caves dungeons. We have also added numerous new modules to various locales. This update also adds more class content as we flesh out the Sorcerer class with new perks and spells." Beautiful, awesome. At first, my gut reaction was, I just don't like it. I just don't like the decision. I read through this, and I'm a vision guy. If you can help me understand the vision for something, even if I disagree with it philosophically, I understand the methodology that follows that philosophy. So I feel like you have a philosophy of why you do something. Your methodology should speak to that philosophy. So in terms of like how the Dark and Darker dev team is building Dark and Darker, I understand the philosophy of making it random, making it feel more hardcore, right? Of why they're adjusting. They say in the past we've had pursued the strategy of pushing high roller mode as the definitive goal for all players and try to press players. Recently, our thinking has changed that we now look at high roller experience as a uniquely separate experience from the normal mode. All right, I get this. And I get what is trying to be done with this game, and I actually like procedurally generated maps. I love them. I love that Goblin Caves is procedurally generated. Here's what I don't like. I think this game the barrier of entry is so high for new players. And I'm someone who, again, recorded and documented my entire new player experience. I have shown people like the first 5 to 10 games of every class that I've played. Ranger, which I suck at. Okay, just straight up, I'm terrible at it. Warlock, Fighter, Cleric. And I've played 100 games as the Cleric and at least 10 in the rest. Or up to 10 in the rest. Not quite on Ranger. But my point is, I I have a really fresh perspective as a new player. I've really analyzed my experience as a new player, and this game is really hard barrier of entry. It's really hard to come into, and I think that again with people like my brother who's a gamer who understands how video games works, with my other friends and people that I want to experience Dark and Dark. I've showed this game to a lot of people, and the barrier of entry was already so high that I was kind of losing them. And now with the map being randomized, it's like, oh, just go to the middle and the lift goes off at 11:20, 7:20, 4:20, 1:20. Like the middle, I don't even know if the middle is the same anymore. If there is that lift, you know, I knew that you could go to the middle for PvP. I knew that you could go to the middle for a guaranteed extract at these times. I knew where the boss was, etc. And like even practicing the boss, like practicing Cyclops. I have a video where I finally beat the Cyclops, and it was so fun learning that boss. But like the hardest part of learning the boss, you know what the hardest part of learning the boss was? Getting to the boss. Like getting to it before anyone else got there so I could actually practice it. Now I'm thinking like, I can't imagine trying to practice fighting the Cyclops without like knowing how and when I'd get to it. And I'm a dad. I've said it before in my videos. I have very specific times in which I can play games, and I have to be tactful about when I play and how I play. For example, if I'm going to, you know, get into a game with buddies, like I can't do it at certain times of the day, or I can't do it at all during the day, because if my kids need me, I've got to bail in the middle of a run, right? And if I'm solo, I don't care if I have to bail, you know, it's like whatever. But that said, like now, if I'm going to start practicing against the Cyclops, I'm never going to learn how to fight. I'm never going to learn how to fight him. Like I feel like I'm never going to do that. It took me probably 20 true attempts of fighting the Cyclops to beat it. Like when I say true attempt, what I mean is like just mano a mano. I spawn in, I run to the Cyclops, I have enough time to fight him. Like it's not just 5 minutes remaining because I had to kill 5 centipedes and 30 goblins to get there. I spawn close to it, I beeline to it, I'm the first one there, I fight him completely by myself, and there's plenty of time to fight him and extract. Maybe like 20 times that I got to actually try that. Every other time, I was either on the opposite side of the map and it took me forever to get there, or I encountered PvP on my way, or someone else was fighting it when I got there, or someone interrupted me when I was fighting it. Now, I could still practice it if the person was chill. If they were like, yeah, you just come in here and we just fight this Cyclops together, that's cool. But sometimes what would happen is I would be fighting the Cyclops, they'd come in and try to PvP me, and then one of us would die, and then I'm like, well, there goes my attempt at fighting this boss, right? So from everything to like from a learning perspective, from learning how the game works, I just got to say, dev team, I'm not a big critic. I love what you guys are doing. I'm not going to be overly critical about this. I don't understand how that's going to help you onboard new players. If you want this to be a painful experience for new players, and you want to say that, hey, it's going to make the game better for like veteran players and competitive players and that hardcore side, totally understand. Totally understand. I think there should be a way that people should be able to learn the game in a safer environment. Yeah, have it be a very limited experience. Like, hey, this is where you learn. And look, I totally get, again, if the philosophy is like, nope, we want it to be painful, you're doing it. That's great. Your methodology matches up. But if there's a desire to get more people into the game, I think there's a missed opportunity. And I think a decision like making Goblin Caves Fog of War and randomized, I feel you just increased that barrier of entry. Again, I love the game. I'm playing it. I'm excited to see what happens in the Goblin Caves now. I'm excited for it to be randomized. I was hoping to start learning the cave troll next, and I still will, but it's going to be a little harder now. Like there's a chance I could jump in, play for 15 minutes, and not even get an attempt at fighting the cave troll because I can't find him because I don't know where he is. And like that makes it almost like I don't know that I will ever have a purposeful session where I'm like, I'm going to practice fighting this thing. Like, it's probably just going to happen at random, which maybe that's what you guys wanted. So anyway, these are my thoughts. About 100 hours in, talked a lot with friends about this game. Really love it. I'm not super involved in the community. I'm not super deep in the threads of Reddit. I'm not super heavy in the I'm not a super heavy user in the Discord community, so I'm not sure how everyone else feels about this. Maybe I'm the odd one out. Maybe I am. I understand your philosophy. I see that your methodology matches up with the philosophy, but bottom line, I think you're going to lose some players. You're going to lose potential future players. I love you all. Thanks so much for making this game. Thanks for the community that makes this game great. Thanks for welcoming in. I don't mind hot takes. I don't mind if you guys heavily disagree. Let me have it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's be civil. And I want to know your thoughts. Thanks so much.